What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Bonnie Scotch. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today. I'm coming to you with a Real Housewives of New York reunion. This is part 2, and we have a lot to talk about. I took a boatload of notes, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I'm back to loving on Uba in this episode. Uba recovered for me in this episode, but we're going to get into it. So let's not waste any time, okay? We start the episode with Jessel letting it be known that Sai and Erin implied that Pavit was cheating. We have Sai skinning up her face saying that she did not say that, when Bravo producers obviously are going to run those tapes back and show us that Erin and Sai were obviously having this conversation and basically implying like Pavit has a lot of time to go to Vietnam and run the streets. We learned in this episode that Pavit is some type of a food blogger. He's a foodie. He likes to travel for different cuisines. He's some president of some fried chicken committee somewhere. I don't know, but it's like his thing. And Erin goes on to say that she wished she knew more about the 5 rounds of IVF because Jessel only revealed that she had a C-section and some other small bits, but not the full spectrum of like, you know, the postpartum depression and things like that. And I feel like you shouldn't have to know somebody's full story and background to be compassionate. I've never had children, and I understand how traumatic a C-section on its own can be. And can we pull over for a moment and just discuss why Erin and Sai have so much audacity talking about Pavit and Jessel's marriage and what they're doing in the bedroom? Because Erin, your man sat up at the table and said out his own mouth that if y'all didn't have sex for 2 years, that he would be cheating on you. Erin, that's what your man said. And he talked about opening up the marriage in 10 years. And you sat up there talking about you wanting to have sex with a gay man. Does that sound normal? Sai, you got your big nerve too, because the rumor, okay, allegedly, the rumor is that you were working at your husband's bar and he was married. Then one day you popped up pregnant. So let's have a chat about that. If we want to talk about rumors and people's husbands and things looking funny business, we know that Sai told the story later on that she met her husband in Costa Rica at some swim up bar and he was rude and nasty to her and that turned her on so much. Anyway, the women feel like Jessel revealed more in the confessionals than she did to them in person. Sai is saying, you could tell us we're your friends. Now, with friends like Sai, who needs enemies? With friends like Erin, who needs enemies? Okay? If she gave y'all that little piece of her to hold safe and y'all ran the streets with it, what would entice her to share more about her life and her story with you all? Let's be serious here. All right. Oh, and Sai, I just want to say this. You're not a safe person to be in friendship or to be in community with, quite frankly. So I don't know why you're telling Jessel, oh, you should feel safe with us, with your friends. She shouldn't feel safe with you because you're a piranha. You're a vulture. You're a hyena. You're vicious, and so is Erin. Okay? And the wild part about this show is that all of these women have a common thread of having this mother wound, right? So you would think that they would be able to connect better, right? Should we break down the mother wounds really quickly? Uba, who has a mother who recently passed away. Erin, who had to grow up really fast and parent 8 siblings because her mammy wasn't shit. Her mammy took off. And her stepmammy wasn't shit. Her stepmammy took off, packed up her shit and left. Okay? Then we have Jenna, whose mother had Asperger's syndrome and admitted that she could not connect with her and apologized for not being able to tell her that she loved her and all of these things. We have Sai, whose mother was an alcoholic, right? And we know that alcoholism stems from deep pain and deep trauma, right? So we have the roles reversed between Sai and her mother, where Sai becomes the parent, which is an inappropriate dynamic for any child to have with their mother, to have with their parent, period. Inappropriate, right? We have Brynn, whose mammy wasn't shit. Her grandmammy raised her. Her daddy's side wasn't shit either. So we have all of these mother wounds here, and it's just a shame that these women couldn't really connect for real, despite them having so many similarities, and more similarities, I think, than they have differences. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. They bring up the moment about Jessel is being rude about the lingerie that Jenna gifted her. And they play the moment where Sai is basically reeling the story to Jessel and saying how rude she came off. And Sai was being a little with Jessel at the time. Andy asked Sai why did she feel the need to take up the cause after it seemed like Jenna had let it go. And Sai says, you know, I wanted to be like a sister coming to her rescue. And I just found that funny because Sai has never exhibited any sisterly qualities on this show at any time ever. So she just gets to throw words around during this reunion and all is understood and forgiven. Now, Jenna is your sister when you were railing her the entire season. Okay, cool. All right, so next up we have a listener question. What's wrong with Erin and Sai? They get nuts about Jenna not sharing, and when Jessel shares, they make fun of her. Erin says that she had a hard time connecting with Jessel's story because the other girls shared that it was the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. And so she couldn't really appreciate that Jenna had an internship and it appeared that she had certain privileges. And my thing is that Jessel doesn't owe you a traumatic story for her story to be valid and be real. Jessel doesn't owe you a trauma bond for you to respect her. You get what I'm saying? So I really don't like it when people make it seem like the only way to really respect a person is to know whether or not they've endured a certain amount of grit or hardship in their life. I don't like people like that. People should not have to experience hardship just to make you feel like they have a cut in their diamond. They have a facet to their gem. They shouldn't have to endure certain things for you to feel like they're worthy of your respect. You get what I'm saying? So I don't really like people like Erin. I know people like Erin who feel, oh, you got to get it out the mud, get it out the dirt. And only then is it valid and real. I can't. Anyway. And also the incessant trauma bonding on this show. You're crying at dinner, you're crying at breakfast, you're crying at lunch. This one is left at the bus stop. This one, it's too much. Okay? I remember I was in cosmetology school. I was with my homegirl Zoe. Shout out to Zoe. I was with my homegirl Zoe and we met this girl. She was the esthetician. Me and Zoe, we were both in the cosmetology program, hair and makeup. And the other girl was an SD. And we linked up with her outside of school to, I don't even remember, just to kick it or whatever. And the girl started like going into like these stories about how she was R-worded and all this stuff. And it was like, damn, bitch. Can I get dinner and a movie first? Like, why do I have to know your whole life trauma upon 5 minutes of sitting down in your house? It was crazy. And that was the last time we ever hung out with that girl. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is there are more ways to relate to people than trauma bonding, than gossip, than talking about men. Like, I just can't. I can't with the girls who do that. Like, it's tired for me. You know what I mean? Just to circle back to what I was saying about mother wounds earlier, I don't think I addressed Jessel. Jessel clearly has a mother wound because Even though we saw Jessel interacting with her mother, and it was one of the sweetest interactions I've ever seen, and you can tell that Jessel's mother is really loving and nurturing, something about Jessel not revealing to her mother that she had 5 rounds of IVF, something about that was strange. And I understand that within the Indian culture, it's such a taboo, and people are really gossipy, and they lack compassion when they find out that somebody is having fertility issues. So I get that she didn't want to share with the rest of her family, but that she specifically didn't share with her mom, and her mom was so upset because she was like, I really wanted to be there for you. I wanted to nurture you. I still found something a little bit off with that. Did anybody else find that kind of weird? So as sweet as we've seen Jessel's mom be with not only her, but with Jenna as well, there's still some reservation there, obviously, right? So, okay, let's get back to the episode. Andy asked Jenna how she felt about Sai being dismissive towards Jessel's story. And Jessa says that, well, you have to admit there is a difference between someone losing their uncle to alcoholism and someone losing their mother. And I'm glad that in this moment, Uba piped up to say, well, where I'm from in Africa, you losing your uncle or losing your aunt could be like losing your mom or your dad. You get what I'm saying? There's this book that I was reading called The Spirit of Intimacy, where the writer was talking about how in this village, there's no aunt and uncle. It's mom and dad. There's no cousin. It's brother and sister. Everybody's your brother and sister. She said that kids in the village would go missing for days, not because any harm had come to them, but because they would be at their other mother and daddy's house, right? Because you're getting your needs met through different people in the village. So I just don't get how they would invalidate Jessel's experience with her caretaker, who just so happened to be her uncle, and saying that it's not as relevant as Sai's experience losing her mother. I just think that's bullshit. You get what I'm saying? Jessel apologizes profusely. She says that she was just trying to connect with Sai, which I understood. Brynn is on the sidelines saying, enough apologizing. They came for your marriage. And Sai didn't like that, okay? Erin is seen rolling her eyes while Jessel explained that her uncle is like a father to her. And I just don't get what's hard to understand about people creating familial bonds that look different than the familial bonds that you have in your family, the familial dynamics that you have. It's different to everybody. You get what I'm saying? Like some people's friends or their play aunt and play uncle who helped to raise them or whatever is more of a family member than some blood family members in their own family. So I just don't understand why y'all are skinning up y'all face when Jessel tells her story. Did you guys notice that Erin can't help but to roll her eyes whenever Jessel talks about her upbringing? There's a certain kind of contempt that Erin projects onto Jessel. I noticed that. Erin has this type of energy where she wants to like be the police of your story. She wants to hold you to every letter in your story. She's going to come to your neighborhood, and while you're sitting on your stoop and she walks past you, she's going to question you about where you live. She's going to ask you if you live in that brownstone in that house. That's what Erin gives me. She gives me big police energy. That's what she gives. All right, so let's get into Sai's package. Her mom wasn't stable. She moved a lot. We have a history of alcoholism, which we know stems from deep and severe pain and trauma. Sai says that dealing with her mother was like having a child, and her mom was homeless. Sai put her mother through rehab. Sai also says that her mother got drunk in front of the children, and her husband told her that her mother has to go. So Sai, you put your mother out of your house because your husband told you to put your drunk mother out the house. Your husband told you to put your already intoxicated mother out the house instead of just putting her in a hotel or whatever the case was. Or you go spend the night in the hotel with her, put her in the bed. He just kicked her out. And you accepted that. Shout out to Sai and her husband. Given Sai's upbringing, you would think that she had a lot more compassion and empathy. But my suggestion to Sai is that she get therapy. Okay, because it's my understanding that she has not gone to therapy as yet. You should really look into that side. All right. So we have a listener question about what attracted Sai to David. She says that they met at a swim up bar in Costa Rica. Okay. She met this guy. He was trying to talk to her friend first. And then he said something rude and snarky to her. And she was like, okay, here's my number. So we have Andy saying, bitch, get into this. Andy goes, I see your husband sold his company and retired. And Sai says it was a marketing company for sports betting. Andy says it must have sold for a lot of money if he's retired. Bitch. Now, when y'all start retiring these men, y'all don't see what happened to Mary J. Blige and Kelly Clarkson and Adele. Y'all don't see what's been happening to all these women, but y'all want to retire these men. All right, so when Andy said that the company must have sold for a lot of money, Sai tells Andy that he's happy. So now you know that whenever folks say in regards to finances, oh, they're happy, they're comfortable, they do all right, you know that they're really getting a coin. So my question is, Sai, if your husband is so happy and comfortable, how come you couldn't get a first class flight to Anguilla? I just have to know. I want to know. If he's good, if y'all are comfortable. I know that Bravo paid for this trip, but why couldn't you just upgrade if Bravo was like, look, this is the budget, this is what we're going to do? You couldn't just pay for the upgrade? It's not like you paid for the flight. All right, next. We have another listener question. Sai, you overreact when you're hungry. Relax. The women say that her behavior was okay because Sai was hangry. They have kids and they understand Sai's behavior. So they are sitting up here defending Sai's nasty behavior. Well, guess what, Sai? Parents pack a fucking snack when they're out with their kids because they know that their kids are going to cut up in the fucking SNAP office and they're going to cut up at the doctor's office and they're going to cut up wherever the hair salon, the barber shop, wherever they take them if they know they ain't got some snacks for that little nigga. So why don't you have some snacks for yourself? Why you don't meal prep? Why you don't pack a little beef patty and some cocoa bread in a little knapsack and a little lunch bag if you know that you work out and you lift weights and you get hungry every 2 to 3 hours? How is it another grown person's responsibility that you are hangry and you don't know how to control your emotions because you know that you're a hungry ass bitch every 2 hours? Y'all really let Sai make it on everything. Y'all just let her get away with whatever. It's just so interesting to me. Anyway, next. Now we have Brynn's package. Let's get into Brynn's package, y'all. Okay. We get into how she has linked up with her father twice in her life. Her grandmother raised her. She took care of her father when he was sick for 3 months. She talks about how there was a hairstylist in the neighborhood that peeped the situation and told the grandmother, bring Brynn to my salon. And Brynn goes on to explain that this is the only experience that she's had with black people and how it connected her to her culture. And she was raised by, her grandmother, her white grandmother, coming up in Indiana. Andy asks her, excuse me, Andy asked her what her experience is like now. How does she connect with her black side? And Brynn says that she identifies as black because she can feel it now. I said, can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Brynn feels it now, guys. She's feeling it. You feeling it? Fill the glass to the top with Moet. She's feeling her black side, honey. It's a feeling, darling. Brynn, when I look at Brynn, sometimes she looks like a white woman to me. So it's just so interesting how people who are biracial but pass for white can tap into the feeling of blackness, and then all of a sudden one day decide that they want to identify as black. But shout out to Brynn. You know, I'm not going to argue with nobody. I only claim the biracials that want to be claimed, like Mariah Carey and Halle Berry, for example. I claim them, okay? But Mariah, according to my memory, was always with the niggas. Halle Berry, according to my memory, was always with the niggas. Brynn was not. Brynn probably at this point in her life sees this resurgence of black pride, and she wants to feel connected with that. All right, so shout out to the biracials, honey. So we move into Andy asking Sai about the bond between her and Brynn. Brynn asks why Sai would throw it away, and Sai says that she has no patience for grown adults, and she just cuts them off. Sai, by that logic, should everybody be cutting you off due to your behavior this season? I think so. Andy asks about Gideon. Brynn starts talking about his penis for the next minute and a half. Okay. Now, Andy asks about the confusion surrounding Brynn and what she does for work. Apparently, she's a communications consultant. She does social media marketing, advertising, branding. She says she was the head of some company that got acquired and that she doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. No, Brynn, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. But on a show about wealth and about opulence, we like to know what the girls do for a living, right? So we got a glimpse into everybody else's life and what they do for a living. And we didn't know if you sold chicken dinners, had an online cupcake shop, had a poppin' OnlyFans where you were making $10K a month like some of the girls down to the OnlyFans. We didn't know anything about you. We saw you at the library. We saw you in Central Park planting trees or picking trees for your grandmother. We saw you in Gideon's garage. We saw you in the hills and in the mountains of California. We haven't seen you at a corporate office. We haven't seen you in an office that you created for yourself in your own home. We haven't seen you at the Starbucks cafe. We haven't seen you at any like typical New York cafe, just on your laptop doing the things. We haven't seen you so much as take a call, Brynn. So no, like, it's not about you have to prove anything. It's just, don't you get how we would be curious about what you do for work? You're just running the streets of New York like a rich white girl. That's what you were giving. You were giving rich, pampered white girl. And if that's the case, I'm not mad at it. We just want to know what the story is, right? Andy mentions that Brynn insisted that she never used the D word, aka divorce, when flirting with Erin's husband. Brynn is telling this man at their anniversary party, when y'all divorce, I'm up next, talking about Erin and her husband. I want to know why the divorce word was so triggering for Erin in this moment. I mean, Brynn was absolutely out of order the whole time. She was ridiculous. I get that she flirts with Abe and, you know, he's Abe the babe and all this stuff, but she was doing a lot at that party to the point where you could see Abe like visibly getting uncomfortable. Like he didn't really know what to say, so he was kind of nervously laughing. We have a listener letter addressing Erin and says to Erin, "You're 35, but you seem like you're in your late 40s for not knowing what WAP is." They asked if Erin has a DAP, aka a dry ass pussy. And Erin makes a face and says, "Well, have you all heard of all of the sex talk that I have with my husband?" Erin, your husband sat up on TV at dinner and told us that he wants to open up y'all's bedroom to another. So how much sex are y'all having for real? You sat up there and told us that you want to have sex with a gay man. How much sex are y'all having if you're fantasizing about having sex with gay men? Okay. Andy goes on to ask about the ups and downs of Brynn and Erin's relationship. Erin tries to joke it off and says that we're just playful with each other. Uba is seen rolling her eyes at the comment. She says it's not a real friendship. Y'all are being fake. I said, clock it, Uba. They show a clip of Watch What Happens Live where Brynn says that the biggest lesson learned is not to trust Erin. They show clips of Erin calling Brynn a liar in episode 1. Brynn said that she didn't lie, she just snitched. Now we see Erin backpedaling and saying, I don't remember exactly those words. And Brynn says, I remember. Do you notice how Erin always says, well, I don't remember it happening like that. I don't remember saying that. She reminds me of Sheree. Sheree never remembers anything she says, and they're always rolling the clips back on her ass. And she comes back to the reunion and she still doesn't remember anything. Andy makes a comment about how sensitive Erin is and that she only considers her own feelings. This is where Erin becomes Karen again, okay? And she says that the insinuation makes her want to cry. Do you see how white women weaponize their tears to get out of being held accountable? You see how easy it is for Erin to tap into that? She's done that, I'd say, about 3 or 4 times in 2 episodes now. And we've seen her do it multiple times throughout the season, mind you. Weaponize her white woman tears. Let's go ahead and tackle this group trip in Anguilla where Uba pushes Erin into the pool and Erin decides to get her look back by taking Uba's phone. Erin was wrong for taking the phone for as long as she did. Even though nobody knows that Uba has this agreement with her family to check in, she shouldn't have to explain the context of why she got so upset. Everybody knows that if you lose your phone for even 2 minutes, let alone 2 hours, you're freaking out, you're losing your shit. I did think that Uba was wrong for getting up in Erin's face and snatching her glasses off her face, but I still enjoyed it because I wanted somebody to get Erin in this moment. Uba is seen going around to the girls in the house and kind of throwing gas on the fire, saying, remember when Erin did this to you? Remember when Erin said that to you? And so she's rallying the girls up to kind of like confront her. And I was living for that. I loved every bit of it. I loved every second of it. Erin deserved it. And she starts crying in the hot tub with no tears. And, you know, it kind of was what it was. Yes, Uba was wrong for snatching the girl's glasses off her face. Erin shouldn't have had her phone for as long as she did. I still walked away from the situation disliking Erin and liking Uba. That's just how I felt. Andy tells Erin a lot of people were surprised to hear you say that this was the worst conflict that you've had in your life. Once again, illuminating how white womanish Erin has been acting throughout this season. Erin starts white womaning once again. Brynn pipes up to say that it's called share my location, find my iPhone. Well, Brynn, why didn't you pipe up to offer Uba find her phone if you feel like this? If it was just as simple as find my iPhone, share my location, why weren't you helping her do that? You all know that Uba has a language barrier. She's from Africa. She's learning English through conversation. with the women through conflict, through different conversations and, outings and happenings that they have, like most people. To learn a new language, it's mostly interactional, right? So we're acknowledging that there's a language barrier. Of course, there's a technology barrier, right? So I just felt like, Brynn, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, trying to be dismissive of Uba's feelings in that moment was so inappropriate. Andy asked Sai and Uba about navigating the angry black woman stereotype. Sai passed the question back to Uba and she says, I feel like you're... Sai, you feel like you're what? You feel like you're more black than me? Is that what you were about to say? I feel like you're considered a black woman and I'm like, what were you... I'm so curious as to what Sai was going to say. We get into the moment where Uba was invited to Jenna's house and Jenna didn't let Uba know that there were going to be cameras. And Uba was upset about it. She was visibly annoyed and she let her know, next time you have to let me know that there are going to be cameras here because I'm not into this. And Uba addressed kind of the coded language that Jenna used, saying, oh, she flipped a switch. And Uba let it be known that just because I'm assertive doesn't make me angry. You know what I mean? Brynn pipes up again. Uba says, maybe you don't know how to be loved and stand up for yourself. Brynn says, watch your mouth. I'm not scared of you. I'm black and Irish. Brynn, a black and Irish ass is going to beat like any other ass. That's like when people jump up to say, I'm from Chicago. I'm from Detroit. A Detroit ass, a Chicago ass will beat like any other ass. So I don't get why you felt the need to jump up and tell Uba that you weren't scared of her. I haven't seen you have any of that smoke, that biracial smoke for any of the girls on the cast except for Uba. And Uba was sticking up for you this whole season, so it was just interesting to see that. What's your black and Irish side gonna do to Uba, Brynn? What you gonna do, Brynn? It was in this moment that it was confirmed for me that I didn't fuck with Brynn. I really didn't like her personality throughout the season and how she conducted herself. But this behavior towards Uba, whenever Uba was like sticking up for your ass the whole season and you decided you wanted to get gangsta and get gully with her for voicing her opinion and expressing how hurt she was that her phone went missing when she has to check in with her family. Brynn, you're not real. You're not real. You're not. All right, so now we have Erin confessing that she was being dramatic when she said that her fight with Uba was her worst conflict. Isn't there a long documented history of black people becoming unalived at the hands of a white woman who decided they wanted to be dramatic for the day? Isn't there a well-documented history of harm coming to black people on account of a white woman who decided to be dramatic for a day? We come back to the comments about the girls not wanting Jenna on the show. Sai says that she didn't think that Jenna would fit in. I guess I get it, but why not give Jenna a chance? I don't know. Is it age? Is it occupation? Is it that Jenna is more popping than you? Is it because she's an older white woman? I mean, I have been making friends of all ages and races since I started working when I was 15. So I've always had older coworkers of all races and ages that I loved. I mean, I'm talking about people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, all ages that I was checking for. That was like my booze when I went to work. Those was my people. Them was my people, period. You couldn't tell me otherwise. But, yes, Sai says that she didn't fit in the group. Andy asked the girls if this season was like a mirror. I think that Erin, and Brynn really needed this mirror the most. I really hope that and Erin got the mirror. Especially, really needed to see herself on TV, see how much of an obnoxious asshole she actually was. Erin gaslighting at every moment, throwing the rock and hiding her hands. Even Jenna to some degree, I think, she needed to see herself reflected on TV. Brynn, absolutely. Brynn was ridiculous all season. She needed a mirror. I, however, don't think that Brynn has the self-awareness to come away from this show feeling like she's going to need to make adjustments. If anything, she'll probably ham it up and play up the flirtatious sex kitten persona and just come and be even more insufferable. So yeah, that was it, guys. That was the reunion part 2. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. Go ahead and hit the like button for me on your way out. Let's get down in the comments. Let's talk about the season. Let's talk about the reunion. I want everybody to come back. I think they're a good cast together. But again, they all needed a mirror. They needed to see themselves reflected. And this was a great first, reboot season. So anyway, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace. I've been all in my phone, I got options, and I don't wanna tell you to drop it.